Good evening, buenas noches, welcome. I am Maite Junco, Vice Chancellor for Communications and Marketing at the City University of New York. I bring you greetings on behalf of our Board of Trustees and of our Chancellor, Felix Matos Rodriguez. CUNY appreciates that New York's leading immigration advocates, Jojo Annobil from Immigrant Justice Corps and Camille Mackler from Immigrant are joining this event. And of course, to attorney Shawn Rahman from our own CUNY Citizenship Now. CUNY is committed to fight for the rights of all our immigrant students, especially those with DACA and TPS. As part of those efforts, last year, Chancellor Matos Rodriguez designated 2 individuals on each CUNY campus to be the immigrant students' liaisons. Staff were tasked with ensuring that immigrant students are able to navigate and access the services on campus that they need. Through our fundraising efforts, they were able to secure funding for DACA filing fees to help students. The Chancellor has also been vocal against policies that hurt our immigrant students, such as the public charge rule, and has lent his support to actions that help our immigrant students, applauding the Supreme Court's ruling upholding DACA. When undocumented students were excluded from the assistance of the Federal CARES Act, the Chancellor used funds from the Chancellor's Emergency Fund to provide undocumented students with grants. This week, CUNY launched a new webpage with information that we hope is useful to our undocumented students. You can take a look at cuny.edu/immigrants. We're proud of the work of Citizenship Now, the nation's largest university-based immigration law project, and look forward to the day when all undocumented immigrants are provided a path to US citizenship. And now, to moderate tonight's event, it is my great pleasure to introduce Professor Allan Wernick, Director of CUNY Citizenship Now. Thank you.
Allan, you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted there. I will start again. I want to thank Vice Chancellor Junco for those kind words and for her support and the support of the City University of New York and especially our Chancellor. We are CUNY Citizenship Now is by far the largest immigration law service program that's university-based or college-based in the United States. And we get tremendous amount of support from the university, and it shows the university's commitment to New York's immigrant community. I'm very fond of saying that CUNY is the most immigrant-friendly university in the country, and I think I can say that without hesitation. We have some terrific speakers tonight, so I don't want to speak too long, but I do want to say that we're going to be talking near the end of the program. We have Camille Mackler going to be talking to us about the timetable and what the future looks like around the Biden proposed legislation. But one thing we want to remind you and emphasize this throughout our program, that it's way too early to be paying somebody to help you with your application. First of all, if the legislation does become law, there's likely to be a lot of changes. And in any event, there's also for sure going to be a tremendous amount of free legal services available should we find a path to US citizenship for undocumented immigrants in the United States. New York City and New York State have been among the most generous in the country in providing for legal services for immigrants. So take the information you have tonight. We will have other forums like this in the future going forward. Read the newspapers and stay alert, but don't get ripped off by somebody who's promising to prepare you for a law which is not passed yet. So on tonight's program, Jojo will be talking about the Biden legislative proposal. Shawn is going to speak about the executive orders, and Camille will talk about the timeline, the path forward, and how we can wage a struggle to win this battle for justice for undocumented immigrants. So without further ado, let me pass this on to Jojo Annobil, a great friend of immigrants throughout New York City and a great friend of CUNY Citizenship Now.
Allan, thank you so much for that kind introduction, and good evening to everyone. I'm glad to say I can breathe again after 4 years of fear and anxiety. And it's exciting to see that things that we thought would never be placed on paper is now before the House and also Congress. So last week, the Biden administration sent Congress a proposed bill, the United States Citizenship Act of 2021. It has not yet been introduced in the House or the Senate. The bill aims to restore humanity and American values to our immigration system. It also, the goal of the bill is to modernize our immigration system, prioritize keeping families together, growing the economy, and ensuring that the United States remains a refuge for anyone who is facing persecution. Before I go into how this bill would benefit anyone who is undocumented, let me say one thing. This bill does a very significant thing, which is that for the first time, it proposes that the term alien, which is offensive in itself, a reference to immigrants, is removed from the Immigration Act and also from the regulations and replaced with the term non-citizen, the right thing to do. So let's look at the bill and how it impacts the undocumented population. I've grouped them in 3 buckets. The first bucket involves anyone who is a deferred action for childhood arrivals recipient, anyone brought here by their parents before they turned 16. Temporary protected status recipients, anyone from a group of countries designated for TPS because of natural disasters or armed conflict. 10 countries in all as of today: Haiti, Nicaragua, South Sudan, Syria, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nepal. Then we have your agricultural workers, anyone who can prove that they've worked 100 days, 4 out of the last 5 years in agriculture, DACA recipients, TPS, agricultural workers. If this bill passes, would be able to apply for a green card immediately. 3 years after they obtain their lawful permanent resident status, they'll be able to apply for citizenship. So that's your first group. The second group covers anyone who is undocumented, a visa overstay, anyone who was not lawfully admitted or paroled, who was present in the United States before January 1st of 2021. Present before January 1st of 2021. There's a 2-step process. Apart from fulfilling criminal background checks, they first of all would have to apply for temporary status and maintain that status for 5 years. After 5 years, they'll be eligible to apply for a green card. If they are granted a green card, they'll have to maintain that status for 3 years before they can apply for citizenship. So that's group 2. Group 3, United States sons, adult children, or adult children of US citizens, spouses, children, unmarried children of lawful permanent residents, married children of US citizens, siblings of US citizens. Many of you may have approved petitions and have to go abroad to be able to complete the process. Because of something called a 3- and 10-year unlawful presence bar, you cannot leave. According to these bars, which were introduced back in 1996, if you remain in the United States for 180 consecutive days, and then you leave voluntarily, you're barred from coming back for 3 years. If you reside here without authorization for a year and you leave, you trigger a 10-year bar. And so a lot of people who are undocumented don't leave and stay here. What this bill will do is to eliminate that 3 and 10-year unlawful presence bar. So you no longer would have to fear leaving, going abroad to a US consulate or embassy, processing your immigrant visa, and returning to the United States. What it also does is that the preference categories are oversubscribed. There are only 226,000 visas that are granted each year. So what this bill aims to do is, one, to clear the backlog, recapture any unused visas over a number of years, eliminate the lengthy wait times. And then what it will do is increase the per country caps. So what happens is that every year there are 226,000 visas for the preference categories. However, no country can exceed a cap of 7% of the total, which comes to about 25,600. What this bill aims to do is to increase that cap. A similar provision is also available in the employment area, where low-skilled workers whose employers may want to petition for them. It's possible that this can happen because the 3 and 10-year bars are would no longer be applicable. In the employment area, what this bill hopes to do is not just eliminate the per country cap, but actually not only increase it, but actually eliminate it. So for example, India has reached the cap, is over the cap, and most people from India, it may take them 100 years before their numbers would be called up. So I've just talked about 3 things. One bucket is DACA, TPS, agricultural workers. They can immediately apply if the bill passes. Second bucket, anyone who has been here or present before January 1st of 2021, undocumented, can go through a 2-step process. The third is anyone who has a family member who is a US citizen, whether a sibling, whether a parent, may be able, if they qualify under preference categories, to be able to go abroad if they have an approved petition to complete the process and come back in. So that's the part of the bill that deals with the undocumented population. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was muted again. Thank you, Jojo. I want to remind our listeners, viewers, that if you have a question, please type your question into the chat, and we'll try to answer as many as possible at the end of the program. Our next speaker is Shawn Rahman, who is with an attorney with CUNY Citizenship Now, and he's going to talk to us about President Biden's executive orders and their impact on our immigrant community.
All right, thank you, Allan. Well, thank you to all of our panel today. It's an honor for me to join this esteemed panel and give you my thoughts on the executive orders. First on DACA, the executive order from the Biden administration is more about reaffirming the commitment to the program. It didn't provide much on how this was going to be done, as surely the focus is no doubt on congressional action. So, but permanent relief for the Dreamers is urgent. So hopefully there is a legislative solution. But if not, I take from the executive order's title, Preserving and Fortifying DACA, to mean that this new administration is absolutely committed to strengthening DACA with or without legislation. Now, absent a legislative solution, I do hope this includes not simply reinstating DACA to what it was, but actually strengthening it. Yeah, so if the legislation that Jojo mentioned does not pass, hopefully we will find ourselves somehow with a DACA that is more stable for those who are looking for protection under DACA. And by that, I mean, hopefully extending the time period beyond the current protection of 2 years. That would substantially ease the financial and legal burden to renew and to renew less frequently. And hopefully, perhaps the Biden administration can enhance protection from ICE. The Obama administration did promise that Dreamers and those who apply for DACA would be protected from ICE and deportation. We really need to make sure that information submitted by DACA applicants is not used for enforcement purposes. So, really looking forward to seeing what the administration is means when they say they're going to both preserve and fortify DACA. Again, hopefully that will come to pass with legislation. But in this executive order, the administration has reaffirmed their commitment to DACA. Okay. Now, another thing on immigration, there was this executive order on deportation and removal, and that executive order is intended to allow time for an internal review of current deportation practices, while allowing a greater focus on real threats to public safety and national security, not arbitrary or discriminatory bans. That removal or deportation moratorium for 100 days would cover most immigrants who face deportation unless they arrived in the United States after November 1, 2020, or were suspected of acts of terrorism or espionage or posed a threat to national security. That was the order. However, last night, a federal judge in Texas temporarily blocked the 100-day moratorium announced by the executive order, effectively placed a 14-day temporary restraining order or suspension on the deportation ban. And this is effective nationwide. At issue in that order in Texas was whether current immigration law mandates removal within 30 days of a deportation order. And the Biden administration says it does not. In addition, the Biden administration responded with two important points, that the memorandum or executive order is not a final agency action, so it's not even ready for court review, so it shouldn't be stopped by the courts yet. And finally, this is a big one, that Texas or any state does not have a say on deportation matters. Of course, let's see what happens. I am confident that the administration will win on this, as immigration enforcement and removal remains strictly a function of the federal government. Okay. And finally, the other important immigration-related executive order is on the travel ban. The Biden executive order here effectively reverses Trump's Muslim ban, is what we were calling it. And the executive order did not mince words. It calls for an end on discriminatory bans on entry to the US. It ends the travel ban from the several majority Muslim countries that was issued by the Trump administration under the pretense of national security. And it also declares that the Trump ban actually undermined national security by jeopardizing our global alliances. So instead of a ban, the Biden's order will improve the screening of visitors by strengthening information sharing with foreign governments and other measures. And within 120 days, Homeland Security is supposed to provide a review of current vetting procedures with those countries, along with recommendations for revising them. And hopefully this shifts the focus to actual threats to national security, so that families unjustly separated by Trump's Muslim ban can finally be reunited. Finally, Biden ordered that the State Department resume visa processing for those visa applicants who were denied because of the Trump ban that normally should have been approved, and importantly, to ensure that those who reapply are not prejudiced as a result of the denial. So that's those are the three major, the main immigration-related executive orders. And again, we will answer any questions at the end of the session. I just want to hand out these numbers for everybody. They should be embedded in the chat. The numbers, if you want to text us, are 929-334-3784. I'm sorry. If you could install your comments in the chat box. If you want to call us for an appointment, let me give you that 646-664-9400 and text CUNY Citizenship Now at 929-334-3784. Thank you for your time. Allan, back to you.
Thank you, Shawn. Our next speaker is Camille Mackler from Immigrant ARC, and if there's anyone that can advise us in the whole country about what's coming forward, it's Camille Mackler. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Allan. Thank you for the kind words. Unfortunately, my crystal ball isn't working that well these days, but I'll do my best. I want to thank my co-panelists and CUNY Citizenship Now for hosting and joining this really critical conversation. I was sitting in my apartment on Inauguration Day, fielding requests from various government and law enforcement agencies around the state who are already getting approached by people who had been told that they could pay someone to apply for the new green card program. And that was January 19th. So I think the first thing I want to say, I want to start off, and I want to say it a lot, is nothing's happened. There's nothing to apply for right now. And that's really, really important for people to know. In terms of what we can expect, so my wonderful co-panelists have sort of laid out all of the big, bold, ambitious plans that the Biden administration has put out there. But let me start with the bill a little bit. You know, the bill, as Jojo pointed out, is right now, there is no legislative language, right? There is no bill. There is a 4-page summary of what the Biden team would like the bill to be, but nothing's been introduced in Congress, right? And as we know, you have to introduce a law in Congress, and then it has to be debated, and then in some way, shape, or form it passes, and then it can be signed by the president, and then it becomes law, and then we start talking about, okay, what's the application form going to be? What's the application fee going to be? Things like that. So we're very much at the beginning of this process. The White House has already indicated that they might be they might be open to the idea of separating this bill and working on it in a sort of piecemeal fashion, meaning that they may not even do it as a whole entire law. It may be little pieces here and there that pass, you know, maybe really looking first at prioritizing dreamers and TPS recipients and farm workers and all of those that were sort of identified as being those that we need to, you know, make sure that we stabilize quickly. And then, or faster. I mean, I hate to sort of create any sort of distinction or division amongst, you know, anyone who needs this relief so desperately, but that is definitely the signals we have been getting from the White House. We don't know what will happen once negotiations begin. We don't even really have a clear idea of who, you know, beyond the lead sponsors, who's going to sign on to this, what kind of bipartisan effort it's going to be. Is it going to be like in 2013 where we saw both parties really come together on this? There's certainly an appetite for bipartisan reform right now, but what that looks like and, you know, what the outcome of that is very much uncertain still. So this bill has a long way to go, and is nowhere yet, and it's just so important, you know, all that information that Shawn just gave out about how you can access information, how you can contact places like CUNY Citizenship Now, places like the Immigrant Justice Corps that are doing their best to get the word out there. Our website at Immigrant ARC also has just sort of explainers, but we don't do direct services the way that these guys do, and the way that you can really just get somebody on the phone and ask a question. In terms of the executive action, same thing, right? Where what we're seeing right now is this team taking a pause, the president and his administration saying, okay, let's take a look at everything that has happened. Obviously, putting a stop or putting a halt on some of the more destructive policies, the Remain in Mexico policy, the Muslim ban, right, 4 years ago, literally 4 years ago today, 5 p.m. walking down 6th Avenue, getting that news alert that the president had signed the Muslim ban. So we're still some of those most destructive policies, thank goodness, have been halted. We've already seen the first litigation be successful with the temporary pause, the temporary halt on the deportation moratorium, meaning that right now that pause on deportations that effectively grounded all deportation flights for the most part for 100 days has now been lifted, which doesn't mean that folks can't still ask ICE for some leniency, right? There are also part of that memorandum, part of that guidance was that ICE should consider enforcing deportation orders only against a very small percentage of the population that they were asking for everybody else to sort of, to take a step back and not enforce deportation orders. And you can still make that request, but you have to make that request, case by case. And what's coming next, we're expecting some more announcements on Friday. We're expecting some things around public charge, maybe, resumption of family-based visas or other kind of green card applications that may have been pending in consulates abroad and were stopped. But remember that the coronavirus-based executive orders are still in place. And so there's still a lot of people who can't actually cross our border because of public health safety reasons, according, to the past administration, and those executive orders remain in place. So I think what I'm trying to say is there's a long road ahead. We don't know when the bill will be introduced or what it's going to be actually saying. We don't know, we don't have a clear timeline, but the one thing is for sure is that it's not today and it's not tomorrow, and it's really complicated. And we just ask you, please, like, call CUNY Citizenship Now, call IJC, call these incredible places, right? Keep checking the IARC website for news updates. We're trying to act as a translator and take all of this legal language and translate it into English for folks, and then hopefully into other languages too. But please don't act based on a false promise. We're all here, we're all fighting, our sleeves are rolled up. We stopped the bleeding for 4 years. Now we're getting back into the ring, and we're going to try to make this as strong as possible and as best as possible for our immigrant communities who've been through so much and who deserve every last one of us fighting for them. But in the meantime, please, please make sure to check your information before you go and pay somebody to do something that's not quite there yet.
Thank you so much, Camille. Camille, that's immigrantarc.org. Is that correct? That's your website?
Yes.
Great.
Immigrantarc.org.
Terrific. And I hope you go there. CUNY Citizenship Now. To get to our website, it's cuny.edu/citizenship now. And the first question's for, I'm going to give to Jojo, so you can give your website as well, Jojo. One of our viewers asked, have there been any changes to the DACA renewal process? Wants to know, should he or she wait to file for renewal or go ahead and file now? You're on mute, Jojo.
That question has come up a lot, and I believe just before the election, there was some question as to whether immigrants or DACA recipients should apply. I would advise whoever is looking for information to go to to check in with a legal service provider to get the best advice they can, because every situation is different. And so I don't want to blanket just push out this idea that everyone can just go and renew. You should reach out to a legal service provider and be advised as to your next steps.
Great, thank you, Jojo. So the bottom line is we have so much free legal service in New York City, and nobody should be filing any application of any sort, citizenship, green card petition, DACA, without speaking to an experienced immigration law advocate. And I hope you will do that. I'm going to take the next question. One of our viewers asked, will being a foreign student in CUNY, either an undergrad or in a master's program, help qualify for the program if this legislation becomes law? Of course, as Camille mentioned, we don't really know the details of the requirements for people to qualify, but historically, these programs are available for people who are undocumented, that is, people who are not in lawful status. Now, we don't want, don't drop out of school thinking that it's going to help you qualify, because again, we don't know what the details are, but it's unlikely that just having a CUNY degree is going to qualify for you for benefit. However, there is likely to be changes in the system for what we call employment-based immigration. That is, an employer sponsors you for a green card. So that may change, and having an advanced degree may indeed be helpful. And the other thing is the proposed legislation does have a special provision for people with PhDs in the STEM programs. That's science, technology, engineering, math. Those people will have an easier road to get permanent residence. The next question is, should undocumented people still worry about being picked up by ICE? And Shawn, could you answer that? And then Camille, you have a lot of experience in this area. I'll let you follow up. Go ahead, Shawn.
I'd question yes until we get a sense of what ICE is going to be like. And they've been such a, in my opinion, a rogue agency over the past several years. Until we get a sense of any changes in the Biden administration, strongly urge those who are undocumented to know their rights when it comes to ICE enforcement, what they have to or should do if ICE shows up at their door or confronts them outside. There is a wealth of resources out there from all sorts of organizations, including ours, and I'm sure with IJC and the IARC website about knowing your rights when it comes to ICE. So the plain answer is yes. We cannot let our guards down if you are undocumented. Let's just see what happens. Camille, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I echo everything you said. ICE still has the authority to arrest, right, to execute removal, to execute deportation orders, to deport somebody. Right now, there's a little bit more ground to make a request for leniency, to ask for that deportation to be stayed, unless somebody falls in 3 very specific priorities for removal. But at the end of the day, it really is still up to the discretion of the officer. And for somebody, for example, who already has a deportation order, there's very, very little time to intervene. I mean, in New York City, we're just so lucky to have had, the leadership in government that we've had that has supported legal services as much as they've had. And I would urge everyone who's got that concern to continue what you've been doing, which is being cautious, have a plan, have your documents in one place, have the person, you know who you're going to call if it happens. They know who to call, they know where to find the documents, because you have to act really, really quickly and reach out to any of the resources that we mentioned today.
Thank you. Jojo, the next question is for you. We know that we've advised that people should not be, hiring people to prepare applications. We know it's way too early for that. But what advice do you have for people in the meantime? Should the legislation come in the future? Should they be collecting documents? Should they be filing tax returns? What advice can you tell our viewers?
So for a long time, we've been telling undocumented immigrants to continue to keep documents relating to taxes. We've been telling them to keep documents relating to their presence in the United States, to prove presence. But at this time, we don't know, we only have just the basic outline of these proposals. There are going to be a lot of details that are going to come out. Whatever documents you have, whether birth certificates of children, hospital records, anything that you have to prove that you've been here or that you've been working, you should continue to collect those documents. Keep them in a safe place so that when we know the details and we publish checklists as to what kinds of documents you would need, there are going to be all kinds of things, criminal background checks, showing that you pay taxes and all of that. You've been to school or you can read. So just be vigilant, continue to collect documents, make copies if possible so that you have more than one set of documents. If one gets lost, you have another one waiting for you. And stay tuned, because once we have enough information, we'll share it with you. And we are going to be, if this happens, there's going to be a lot of education that's done in various communities and neighborhoods. We want to get it right if this goes through. We don't want anyone not to be able to apply for any benefits. And we also don't want anyone to make any mistakes when this happens. So just stay tuned. It's going to be a long road, but hopefully we'll get to the finish line.
Thank you, Jojo. And I want to remind our viewers that the last time there was a broad legalization program passed in 1986, implemented beginning in 1987, it was almost 10 years prior to that the first legalization bill had been introduced into Congress. So the current proposal grants undocumented immigrants a path to citizenship if they've been in the United States, if they're in the United States on or before January 1st. But it is worthwhile, as Jojo mentioned, to keep your documents, your doctor's records, anything that shows that you in fact were in the United States, keep them in a safe place. As Jojo said, make a copy. We don't know how long this struggle is going to take. Shawn, I have the next question for you. Do you think that advanced parole will continue for DACA holders under the Biden administration, and how hard is it to get advanced parole?
Right now, I do believe that advanced parole will continue. Right now, DACA only permits travel on advanced parole for essentially emergency, educational, humanitarian, and employment reasons, or humanitarian emergencies. I'm hoping that we do expect this to continue. It has been difficult or impossible, actually. The Trump administration ended advanced parole for DACA a couple of years ago, only to have it reinstated by a court. But I'm hoping that this somehow there is advanced parole, and maybe even in easing of the restrictions to allow to allow DACA recipients to maybe expanding the purposes of travel. For right now, it is still only about emergency, humanitarian, educational, or employment purposes. But it continues, and we expect it to continue for as long as DACA is around during this administration.
And I would just add that, I expect that the adjudication, the granting of advanced parole be quite generous, as it was under the Obama administration, unless and until we have a court order from a federal judge that would provide some limitations on it. But for now, we are most organizations, CUNY Citizenship Now, are assisting people with advanced parole applications. Camille, and this is something that I know you addressed, but I'm trying to help a couple. The U.S. citizen spouse is in the United States. His wife is in Mexico. They filed a petition. It's been approved. They filled out all the papers, suspension, consular processing has been suspended. I mean, they've said they've opened up a little bit, but I wonder if you have any advice or information about how long it's going to take before consular processing picks up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's an announcement that we're expecting on Friday. So I think we'll have more information on that after Friday. We're expecting some more announcements about potentially previous executive orders being rescinded, previous guidance being rescinded. And so hopefully that reopening of immigrant visa processing abroad, so those green card applications for folks who are abroad, will hopefully be reopened, or at least there'll be a clear idea of when it might be reopened. I do want to caution again that we have the travel bans related to COVID and to health reasons that remain in effect, and haven't heard anything about that happening so far. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But there is a hope that on Friday we'll find out more about those families that are still separated across countries and across oceans and across borders as a result of some of the worst policies of the last 4 years.
That's great. And can we go to immigrantarc.org to find out more about it on Friday?
Yes, you can.
Great. Had to give you a little plug there.
Appreciate it.
We have had, we're going to finish up now, and you should know that there'll be plenty of other programs like this going from us and from others. Follow CUNY Citizenship Now on, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and, we'll try to keep you informed. But, Camille and Jojo have been such good friends of CUNY Citizenship Now and such strong, advocates for immigrants in New York City and around the country. And it's just a pleasure. And Shawn has been a great leader in CUNY Citizenship Now. He heads up our training for our paralegals and our attorneys. He does a lot of training throughout the community as well. He is a professor at Baruch College, where also I'm a professor. And it's great to have you as well. The three of you all did a terrific job. I want to again thank Maite Junco, my boss and the Vice Chancellor for Communications at City University, and also Monique Francis, who's the Deputy Director of CUNY Citizenship Now, Sofia Carreño, who's our Communications Coordinator within CUNY Citizenship Now, and all of the staff who at CUNY Citizenship Now that did a great job putting this together. So thank you all.
Allan, before you sign off,
Sure.
Can I just say one thing that
Please.
to reach IJC, please take down this number, 1-800-354-0365. You can call this number anytime between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., Monday to Friday, or you can call 311 and just say Action New NYC, Action NYC. Thank you.
Great. And, IJC is one of the most advanced immigration law service providers in the country. They have a very broad range of services that provide everything from green card application to citizenship to deportation defense. So thanks a lot, Jojo, for giving out that information. So, I've just said, keep the faith, keep on struggling. It's, the road is torturous, but the future is bright. So let's just keep it up. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Allan.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, Camille. Bye, Jojo.